So this video is about Jim Carrey, but not necessarily the way you think. It is, but it's not. I want to talk to you about my favorite Jim Carrey movie. My favorite Jim Carrey movie of all time. And it's not one that many people know. It's not The Mask. It's not The Truman Show. It's not Dumb and Dumber. It's not Me, Myself, Irene. It's not Ace Ventura, right? I mean, they're all good. Liar, Liar, they're all great movies. But Bruce Almighty I like, but it's not that one. It's a movie, like I said, most people don't really talk about or even heard of, because when they ask a question about it at trivia, because you know I run a trivia game, some of you, they're like, what movie is that? I never saw that before. I never heard of it. It came out in 2001, and it's called The Majestic. Raise your hand if you've seen that movie. What a good movie. Oh, my goodness. It's not your typical Jim Carrey movie at all, but it shows you how talented he is at doing dramatic roles. What a movie. Spoiler alert on this, so if you've never seen and you don't want to know, you can stop watching. But basically, Jim Carrey plays a Hollywood screenwriter, okay? And this movie takes place post-World War I, like in the 30s. And he's a Hollywood screenwriter back in the golden age, right? And he learns that he's been blacklisted on a cup, with ties to the Communist Party. So one of his movies that he wrote was out at the time. And again, he finds out that he has been blacklisted. Very upset. He goes on a drinking spree, foolishly. And he's very distraught. And he's driving in the rain. And he sees a squirrel or something, and he tries to swerve out of it. But he's driving on a bridge. He sees the squirrel, tries to drive, try to, go around it or whatever, avoid it, or something like that. And he basically drives off the bridge. So this was totally an accident. He drives off the bridge into the water, and the water's like rapids almost, right? And he bumps his head on a rock. Next day, they find him on the beach. Let me get to California. They find him on the beach off the coast of a small town called Lawson, California. And this town of Lawson is a war town, meaning the majority of the families in that town had a son or a husband or father or whatever. Some male figure in those families had been in the war, and most of them died or were handicapped from the war. There's a lot of stars hanging out from the windows, right? To signify if they lost somebody. So it's a very tight-knit small town. And again, honoring the those who've fallen. And so that town suffered a lot of loss, a lot of tragedy. So Jim Carrey is found washed up on the coast of this town by the beach. And people begin to think that he's a soldier who passed. Now, just so you know, Jim Carrey's character name in this movie is Peter Appleton, the screenwriter, Peter Appleton. But the people of Lawson, California, think his name is Luke Trimble. And he is the son of one of the men in this town, played by, Mission Impossible, Martin Landau. So Luke Trimble's dad, Martin Landau, an older man, of course. So everybody says, your son is here. Your son is back. Because he looks just like this guy. It's ironic, right? But anyway, so Martin Landau sees him and he starts to believe, power of suggestion, wishful thinking, whatnot. Oh my God, it's Luke, right? So long story short, and he starts, Jim Carrey's, here's the problem though. Jim Carrey can't convince them that he's not Luke because he got amnesia when he bumped his head on the rock. So he doesn't know if they're right or wrong. So he's starting to believe, oh, maybe I am Luke. Maybe I am Luke. I forgot who I am. I should have mentioned that earlier, but I'm sure you saw that coming. Yeah, so he's got amnesia. He can't remember. So he's starting to believe what everybody's saying. Naturally. Turns out now that Martin Landau's character, the father, used to own a movie theater. And that movie theater was called The Majestic. One of those old school theaters from back in the day, like the Rivoli, just like, classic looking. And it was shut down completely. Well, Jim Carrey, of course, here's the thing about Jim Carrey. He doesn't know who he is, but he knows somewhere he's got some knowledge about movies somehow. So he, still not sure who he is, but thinking he's probably Luke, he and the group decide they're going to renovate the Majestic and bring it back to life better than ever. And they do. Everything's replaced. The lights are on. The movies are playing. They do so well. It revives the town, and everybody thinks, Luke did it. Luke did it. Right? So, there were little snippets in the movie, though, that started to show certain people who were open to believing that this was not Luke. Certain things happening, I won't get into details, but there were a couple of people who were like, I don't know if you're him or not, or they kind of kept it to themselves. But of course, because the town was being so uplifted, no one wants to rain on anybody's parade, So, anyway, they renovate the Majestic. It's doing great. So when you know it, yes, there's a love story in there. And, Luke's ex-girlfriend or Luke's girlfriend at the time is, with Jim Carrey's character. There's always a romantic time, which is good. It's part of the story. But so when you know it, of course, because it's a movie theater, one night they're running the movie that Jim Carrey's character, Peter Appleton, wrote. And because it was playing earlier in the movie. Okay? Before he found out he was being blacklisted, I guess, or whatever. So this movie's playing, and Jim Carrey, thinking he might be Luke, is sitting in the back, or standing in the back, controlling the film. Because he's, controlling the film strip. Eating the popcorn, whatever he's doing. And he starts to watch a scene, and he starts to recite the lines of the scene out of nowhere. And it all starts coming back. Because he said the scene word for word. He freaks out. Drops what he's doing. The film strip stops, because they have to replace it's reel to reel, He runs to the front lobby to check out the movie poster. He goes all the way down the line of names, and what does he find? Screenplay by Peter Appleton. And he freaks out. And he has like a panic attack, and he runs out of the theater to collect himself. He starts to, I'm Peter Appleton. I'm not Luke Trimble. I'm Peter Appleton. Then he remembered he was being blacklisted, and it all came back. Well, long story short, he tries to tell people that he's not, he finally tells people that he's not Luke. He has to, because he's got this thing going on. So, of course, everybody's disappointed. Some are like, yeah, I knew you weren't Luke, whatever. So because he was blacklisted, he has to go to Washington to testify that he should not be on the list. He's not a communist, right? So he goes there and he starts to, he was basically told by his lawyer, read the statement that was written for you. Yes, you're going to be accused of it, but you'll get off light. And then he started to realize, he thought about the people from the town and how much they love their country, and those that fought, those who fell, right, the fallen soldiers. And he said, I can't do this. I can't just accept. I know I'm not a communist. I can't accept this. I'd rather go to jail than be labeled this way. And you know what I'm saying? So he decides to speak out against the board. All these judges, right? The committee. Speak out against the committee. And he invokes the First Amendment. And they are very upset, right? Hal Holbrook was the head guy. He was so pissed, right? You're out of order, like that, right? What a movie. What a movie, honestly. So anyway, long story short, he causes this big ruckus, and it kind of reminds me of what Jim Carrey's doing in real life when he was calling out all the bullshit, right? So he causes this big ruckus, and he knew he was in trouble, right? So long story short, he gets back to the limo or the car with his lawyer. And he said, I know I'm going to jail, so what do I have to expect? And the lawyer says, no. You became a hero when you did what you did. Meanwhile, all the people in Lawson were listening to it on the radio, and they were so proud. They were like, okay, this guy may not be Luke, but he has his spirit. Right? Oh, what a movie. What a freaking movie. Anyway, so they said, his lawyer told him, you became such a hero in that room. They can't do that to you. You got your life back, kiddo. What? So he was like, oh my God, right? Long story short, he decides he's going to go back to Lawson as Peter Appleton and start a new life in Lawson. And he hooks up with the girl, and they live happily ever after. The town welcomes him back with open arms, like he was Luke. Because he was a hero in their eyes. Just on he didn't go into the battlefield, but he kind of did when he went to the committee, right? When he was speaking out against the committee. So what a freaking movie that was. I hope I didn't take up. I know I'm already on, 13 minutes, but what a freaking movie. If you've never seen it, it's called The Majestic. It's so awesome. One of the most underrated Jim Carrey films ever, and one of his best performances ever. So good. But the reason why I brought it up is to tie into what's happening now. No, I do not think that's Jim Carrey. Okay. But it reminds me of when he, those videos of him speaking out against things and, whatever happened to him. I'm not going to say what it is, but something's up. Something's definitely up. This is what I mean by the veil thinning, right? But it reminded me of his character in The Majestic, how he spoke out against the establishment. Like he did the same thing on Jimmy Kimmel and all those other shows. All the things, Larry King, all those things he was trying to do, right? So that's all I really want to say. Again, The Majestic, Jim Carrey, great freaking movie. 2001 it came out. I suggest, even though you kind of know, if you watch this video through and you never saw it before, you kind of know how it goes. But I'd watch. It's such an inspiring, beautiful film. It really is. It's a feel-good movie. It really is. It really is. So, anyway, Jim Carrey, I mean, who knows what's happening, but something's definitely up. But anyway, if you want to see something really awesome that he was in that you may have never seen before, The Majestic. Take care.